If you feel like kids are getting dumber, you are not wrong. As recent studies show, Generation Alpha is on track to be the dumbest generation yet. When the internet was released in 1983, everyone was going to be the next Einstein. With unlimited information about any topic, anyone could become a genius. Anyone but the United States.
Nearly 40% of grades for high school students were Fs.
We are seeing the fastest decline in test scores from US students. Schools are hiring unqualified teachers to teach, and the internet and how kids use it is proven to rewire their brains. But that's not how it always was. The internet was made to share knowledge all around the world. And as time went on, we saw the internet evolving into more of a mythical world, where games became the new entertainment. People were famous in parts of the world that they had never even stepped foot in, and the internet was an exponentially growing database of information, available globally, maybe even worldly. Well, the internet today has evolved into something unimaginable, as kids are now growing up in a dystopian internet world. Millennials grew up on the early internet. Not much entertainment, but it was at least something compared to earlier generations. Then Gen Z came and grew up alongside social media, but with limited screen time. And now Generation Alpha is here, who is growing up in a fully digitalized world, where they can watch anything, learn anything, or play anything in just a few clicks. You guys remember in 2012 how people said the world was gonna end? And it didn't, but everyone says that the world doesn't feel the same since then. Well, I have a new theory to add. There was a massive world update in 2012 for Generation Alpha specifically that says when a Generation Alpha baby spawns in, they automatically come with an iPad 12 with YouTube pre-installed, which is partially true, as 40% of babies now have a tablet before they are 6 years old. But dude, like what? And what's even crazier is by the time that they're in school, they become violent if their phone is taken away, which I've never seen before in all my years at public school.
Middle school student and his teacher arguing over a phone. Then the student becomes physical, shoves the teacher, hits her multiple times, knocks her head against the desk, and knocks her to the ground.
So something had to happen. How did we get here? Well, here's the theory that everyone's talking about. The parents of these kids are the millennials. It's generalized that millennials were raised by stricter parents, and as a result, they adopted easier and less harsh parenting techniques, allowing their kids to deal more freely with no punishment, which honestly doesn't sound like a bad environment for a kid to grow up in. But it doesn't make sense that nearly 100% of millennials use the internet, and they don't understand they need to guide their kids to use it properly, especially on social media, who will know you are a kid after an hour of usage, which then recommends optimized content that other kids get glued to watching. And it's not the kids' fault for watching this content. They don't know any better. The people who create the content for kids fully optimize their entire video and go through stages of editing so that audience retention is at its highest percentage. You know that feeling you get when you hear an ice cream truck? As it slowly gets louder, you get exponentially excited, and then when you see it, you feel like you're on cloud 9. That's the exact feeling a kid gets when watching these videos. And they can easily fall into a rabbit hole of hundreds of those videos, which is an actual epidemic called doom scrolling, which has now been studied and shows that it rewires our brain, and we're seeing it in the classrooms of Generation Alpha.
They cannot write and they cannot comprehend. I'm not being funny.
I'm gonna just say this. I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
My 5th graders with significant language-based learning disabilities could write better than non-disabled 7th graders can now.
I feel like the 23% of Generation Alpha who doesn't really use the internet, they understand what's happening with their fellow classmates. I was reading my comments and someone was talking about their younger siblings using YouTube for 15 hours a day. My screen time is pretty high, but okay, we don't have to talk about that actually. Generation Z never had access to the internet the way Generation Alpha does. And with a simple Google search, you can see the consequence of that. 65% of 4th graders are not proficient in reading, dude. But they're able to bully their teachers into tears.
I very nicely told you what to do.
And studies show that their brains are changing because a child's brain is very plastic at this age, meaning their brain is adapting daily, and the early exposure to tablets has a significant long-term effects on cognitive processes, which is only one part of Generation Alpha's downfall. Kids have always hated school. It is human nature, but now it's not only the kids, it's also the teachers. 2 teachers I know who loved teaching quit because they couldn't support themselves, and they said kids were becoming more rude and dumb as each year passed, which we'll get into the concept of kids getting dumber each year in a moment. But we need to talk about how the teachers in school aren't even qualified to teach anymore. It is commonly known that teachers are barely paid anything to begin with and have been experiencing a wage decline for the past decade. Now add on top of that, students are becoming less interested in school, teachers lose the passion passion that they have for teaching. The whole reason they started was to teach kids. It wasn't for the money, and now they have no desire to be a teacher, so they're just quitting. Overall, the main reason a lot of teachers say that they're leaving is because of kids' behavior. The way Generation Z acted versus how Generation Alpha is acting is so different and horrible that teachers are literally just getting up and leaving. Ann B, who teaches in California, says it is traumatic for other students in the classroom to witness another student verbally and physically attacking the teacher and other students, but no one seems to care. Imagine you wanted to teach kids and help them become a little bit smarter, and instead they just start cooking you, bro. Like, I would quit on the spot too. It's no wonder why teachers are leaving at all-time high rates, requiring schools to hire unqualified teachers, which is up to 17% of teachers now, overall worsening the school experience for kids, making them hate school even more, contributing to the growing population of kids who lack social skills. Okay. Sorry. Let's just chill out for a second. It is not all bad news. Generation Alpha is the most ethnically diverse generation in American history, and they're exposed to various cultures and worldviews at a young age. They have seamless access to any and all information through technology, and while teachers are saying Generation Alpha students are becoming dumber academically, they're still learning and absorbing vast amounts of information daily because 77% of them use the internet. The kids who are taking advantage of the internet and use it properly become brilliant and maybe find school not as useful, so they try less on their grades, while the kids who aren't using the internet properly are the ones absorbing constant brain rot and vaping in elementary school. Like, bro, what do you have to be stressing about to need a vape at this age? At that young of an age, you would get the same dopamine from trying something new or a hobby. Like, how do you even find a plug? Okay, you know what? Never mind. That doesn't matter. That's not important. The reason I'm talking about this today is because it's now a trend on TikTok for teachers to talk about their experiences. And these poor teachers aren't going unnoticed with millions of views. Growing concern from each generation about Generation Alpha, but also receiving backlash from millennials, saying for teachers to not be talking about their kids on social media, which the teachers don't really care at this point. I think they want to get out, right? But what do you guys think? Should teachers be talking about their students on social media? I think it does no harm as long as the kids' faces aren't shown, because it's important to hear teacher testimony about how kids are acting now. And since all the teachers are quitting, then there's obviously something wrong with Generation Alpha. But okay, guys, I'm not trying to spread bad news only about Generation Alpha. I've learned to pick and choose my battles. I don't want no beef with Generation Alpha. I'm pretty sure my generation, Gen Z, is pretty bad as well.
One Gen Z working hot dog register, working at the speed of molasses. Took an hour to get the worst hot dog of my life. Another Gen Z came to help, but it actually made things slower because they started watching TikToks. This country is screwed. 1 star.
We might be screwed. We might be screwed. Let me butter the situation up a little bit with some good news. We might have just been living through the peak of it all. In 2023, the number of kids who constantly use their phones have gone down by 10%, contributing to an 11% drop in social media usage since 2021. And at the end of the day, we understand the internet has everything, and if not used properly, can cause more harm than good. As shown by the studies of babies' brains getting rewired if they get an iPad at birth. Don't do that, please, because I'm worried about Generation Alpha. I don't know if you guys are, but I am. I pay Social Security, and if they're not smart enough to carry the economy by the time I turn 67, I will be a bitter old man yapping about how bad kids are now in my front yard. Well, I have to do it on Twitter. Yeah, I'll do it on Twitter. I'll have to do it on social media because none of you guys will be outside. I'll do it right under your little meme post that I won't understand, which is a whole different topic, honestly. The memes kids are watching nowadays are traumatizing brain rot. If you want to learn more about social media and how terrifying memes are becoming, click this box here. Thank you guys for watching. I spent about 100 hours on this video, so a like would be appreciated, and a subscription if you guys do like this type of content. Have a good rest of your day. Love you. Goodbye.